Yo, what up, guys? Coach Isaiah here. Today I'm going to go over what I refer to as the Golden Bridge Theory. Essentially, this is the training approach I've created throughout my 10 plus years as a personal trainer and athletic performance coach. And it is designed to strategically take general strength and conditioning and fitness components such as strength, endurance, hypertrophy, flexibility, and connect them to actual skill performance for athletes. I created this theory throughout years of education, acquiring my bachelor's degree in exercise physiology at JMU, my master's degree in sports medicine at UCCS, earning several certifications, USA weightlifting, certified speed and agility coaching 1 and 2, my CSCS, several others. And even more importantly was my experience interning under phenomenal coaches such as Lauren Landau, the head strength coach of the Broncos, who owns Landau Performance, also here in the Denver area, and has successfully trained hundreds of professional athletes, Olympians, UFC fighters, working under Paul Goldberg, former nutritionist and strength coach for the Colorado Avalanche, who now runs the Thor 3 program, the performance training program for the Green Berets, which is where I interned under him. Jay Dawes, who is my head professor at UCCS for my graduate degree, who's a great coach and phenomenal sports medicine researcher and publisher. Christian Carter, Dr. Carter at James Madison University, among several other incredible coaches. So really learning under them, their systems and approaches, how they did things. And then just over the years, working with athletes from 5-year-olds to really elite competitive high school athletes, to my experience working with collegiate and professional athletes under my mentors. I've really just taken what I like from different people's systems and created things of my own that just made sense based off of all my experience and scientific knowledge, going from just real empirical evidence down to the biochemistry, biomechanics, physiology of things, and came up with a system that I believe really connects the sports performance to what we would consider the general fitness or strength and conditioning. And these are the performance attributes that I refer to as the Golden Bridge. We'll get into it a lot more throughout the video. But throughout this video, I want you to think about the quote from the great Kung Fu master and philosopher Bruce Lee. He said, "Study under all the great masters. Take what you like, drop what you don't, and add what's inherently your own." Anything I post on YouTube, this video included, that's exactly what I want you to do. All right, so let's get rolling. Here you can see a traditional approach to a strength and conditioning system used to enhance performance, beginning in a hypertrophy phase, moving forward to a strength phase, and finally ending in a power phase, which most highly correlates to increased performance. Hypertrophy, scientifically speaking, is the enlargement of an organ or tissue from the increase in the size of its cells. In regards to strength training, when we refer to hypertrophy, we're just talking about enhancing the size of the muscles or muscle fibers. Some people believe that hyperplasia is possible, which is the increase in the amount of muscle fibers, but there's not a lot of research to back that in adults, and that just gets really in-depth and isn't really pertinent to our discussion today. So let's just focus on hypertrophy. The reason why hypertrophy is typically achieved within 6 to 15 reps, depending on the source you reference, is because that seems to be the optimal load that you can manage with good form versus the amount of work performed with that load, right? So the proper balance of load and volume to cause the physiological damage necessary to signal the biochemical responses we need to enhance the size of the muscles. You can build strength without increasing muscle mass. However, increasing the amount of muscle fiber cross-sectional area or size of the muscles allows for greater strength gains as a greater amount of muscle fiber is available to contract upon activation. Some weight class sports, such as MMA, may be complicated by adding too much size. Thus, the athlete should minimize time spent in this phase. This may also be the case in sports such as Formula One racing, where the driver is at a huge disadvantage when climbing in the car with too much body weight. Even in these cases, some time should be allotted for hypertrophy and muscle endurance training due to its ability to increase tendon strength, thus minimizing the risk of injury, and maximizing the conditioning of the muscles so that the athlete possesses the necessary work capacity to perform optimally in those later phases of strength and explosiveness. Despite popular belief, putting on mass doesn't necessarily make you slower, as long as the Golden Bridge theory is applied. Were this the case, how would you explain football players like Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants? Or Terron Armstead, the 300-pound offensive lineman who ran a 4.740? Or explain the explosive athleticism of Zion Williams at 6'6", 285 pounds? Strength training is a phase used to maximize the ability to generate force or move a heavy load. Think about this in terms of a center in football blocking an offensive lineman, or a forward in basketball preventing an offensive opponent from backing him down in the paint. We generally train this phase with submaximal to maximal loads between 1 to 5 repetitions. We built more muscle mass in the hypertrophy phase. Now we're training the neurological system to contract these muscle fibers to their full potential. Imagine upgrading from a 24-inch box TV to a 70-inch 4K HD big screen on a limited supply of electricity. Now that we have a much larger advanced television, we need much greater supply of electricity to power it and get the full experience. The neuromuscular system is the electric current powering the muscles. Yeah, over here. Not only does strength have a lot of applications of its own, but more importantly, it provides the necessary foundation to express the power in the later phases. Power is our ability to express strength quickly, to become explosive. In terms of basic physics, power is work over time. Power can be trained with high reps, for instance, 10 medicine ball slams, but most would consider this to be power endurance, which is still super relevant in many sports. However, peak power is usually trained in 1 to 3, maybe 5 repetitions per set. The key here is to move a given load as quickly as possible, be it sled pushes for 20 yards, 3 snatches, or a single box jump for maximal height. Then you can get into power repeatability, such as 3 hurdle hops to a box jump with minimal ground contact time. Power can power, all pun intended, a pitcher's ability to throw the ball with a greater velocity, a quicker running speed, or a more devastating tackle in football. Aside from power, other performance attributes would include things like speed, both acceleration and max velocity, agility, stability and balance, reaction time, coordination, kinesthetic sense or spatial awareness, among others. These must all come together synergistically with the size and strength we've created in the athlete in order to optimize their in-game performance within their sport. Let's look at an example of a football player, a wide receiver running a route and making a catch. They've got to have great reaction time and acceleration, explosive first step, to get off that line promptly when the ball's hiked. Then to efficiently run their route and get open for the catch, they've got to display great multi-directional speed. Then their jumping ability could come in play if they have to get up for the ball to make the catch. And if they're in the air, let's say they get hit by a safety or cornerback, now they need great spatial awareness and balanced recovery in order to still land and take off running, or even if they don't land, keep that ball as they hit the ground. Let's look at another example. A soccer player gets the ball, dribbles through several defenders, and smashes it into the back of the net. First of all, dribbling alone is going to require a significant amount of stability, balance, coordination. Then the ability to plant one foot while kicking the ball with power and precision with the opposite foot is going to take more stability, balance, power, coordination. Then the ability to do all of this while scanning the field for open teammates, oncoming defenders, the positioning of the goalie, and where an opening in the goal is to place the ball is going to take great spatial awareness. So you can see how all of these attributes really come together to get that athlete into their state of flow. Here you can see a flow chart demonstrating a little more in depth the process that I would use utilizing the Golden Bridge. I would still put hypertrophy as the first phase, followed by strength, due to their necessity to provide the size and force generation capabilities necessary to optimally perform the Golden Bridge performance attributes. In the Golden Bridge here, you'll see power, balance, and stability, sprint mechanics and speed training, and agility, working on those sharp cuts, turns, not always sharp, different types of angles, so that we master ultimately multi-directional speed, which is going to be huge for almost any athlete aside from maybe a track sprinter. Something important to consider when putting together a training program is that spending too much time in one phase could cause you to lose other important attributes. For instance, if you spend 4 months in the strength phase, that athlete's likely going to lose muscle mass and conditioning. So it's pertinent to consider exactly what the needs of that athlete are as an individual for their sport, for their position, where you are in the season in regards to preseason, postseason, in season, and then create or adjust your program accordingly. For instance, if a football player doesn't possess the necessary muscle mass to bounce off of tackles and break through those holes in the line, then perhaps it's pertinent to spend 8-12 weeks during the off season in order to put on sufficient mass, then move forward, focusing in on power, strength, speed, agility, whatever other attributes are more significant for their actual on-field play. If you really look at how I break it down, though, I'm going to have a little bit of strength and power even in a hypertrophy phase. I'll have some power and maybe end with a hypertrophy exercise in the strength phase. And typically, I'll superset a Golden Bridge attribute with my lifts in any phase. So for example, I may have an athlete go back and forth between 2 hurdle hops to a box jump and 10 repetitions of bench press, or some form of med ball throws, then 5 deadlifts. There are a ton of options and different opinions here, but we'll get to that in a different video. Also, remember, train these movements with multi-directional approaches, such as lateral box jumps and reverse agility drills. Training should also incorporate bilateral and unilateral movements. One day I may have an athlete perform a barbell bench press, then the next day we might train a horizontal push using single arm dumbbell presses. I might pair a barbell bench with single leg box jumps and pair the single arm dumbbell press with bilateral hurdle reaction jumps. Hopefully now you can see why all these attributes must come together in a synergistic, systematic fashion, enabling the athlete to really get into that state of flow and perform at an optimal level in game situations. This is why I like to refer to the collective as an athlete's spidey senses. For example, look at the homie Donovan Mitchell and the way he plays so smooth and effortlessly with all of these attributes combined seamlessly in his game.
It starts with defense, man. Plain and simple. FA just kind of flipped it over. They're playing a catch. O'Neal back inside, and there's Donovan.
Okay, guys, so that's the gist of my Golden Bridge theory. Hopefully you gained some meaningful insight that you can apply to your training system with your athletes. Or nah. Hey, there's a million ways to peel an apple, but I prefer a sharp knife over a wooden spoon.